Welcome to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock, who is the co-founder of videosocials.net and of videointerviewpodcast.com. In every episode, Mark interviews business and organizational thought leaders who share their stories of how they inspire others by making a difference. You can find this show on videosocials.net and YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and almost any podcast platform of your choosing.
Welcome. Glad to have you folks today. And today I'm really happy to have my friend and a longtime Video Socials member, Rick Morgin. And Rick is a partner with the franchise consulting company. And you can consider him, the Match.com of the franchise industry. Great to have you, Rick.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you on your show, on your podcast.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And as I've mentioned before, and you may or may not know, but I really only have people on the show that are not just all about business, but are about making a difference in people's lives. And I've seen you record many, many videos, and I know that underneath the covers, you're trying to help people. You're trying to help people fulfill their dreams, and I really appreciate that. But what's your story? How did you get into franchising, and how does that work?
It is interesting. I mean, I had a long corporate career, and which came to a conclusion in end of 2014, very late 2014. And yes, I was looking for another job after downsizing, but then I was also had a mindset of kind of been in corporate life for over 25 years. What can I take and do for myself? And I had actually thought about that in the early 2000s, but just wasn't mentally ready. And I just noticed a difference in my mindset. So I was doing my networking in winter of 2015. I went to a network group for finance executives, and a member who I hadn't met before left her finance career and got into this franchising. And it just struck me that there are a couple of elements of doing this and being successful that I had some skill sets that I could bring with me to do it. And it was just something that after a couple of months, I made the leap I wanted to do. And I was always cognizant of helping my direct reports advance their career. Mm-hmm. And then having my corporate career span sales, marketing, and finance, I could help people understand the business and the economics of the business. So that fit. Mm-hmm. And I went from W-2 to 1099 in June of 2015. Haven't looked back. It's been over 7 years, and I do have a passion for helping people. There are people out there who are looking to do something different, own their own schedule, create wealth for themselves, and I'm there to help with those, help them try to achieve those type of dreams.
That's awesome. So, how do you help them? What do you do for them? What is a franchise consultant?
Currently, I've got two aspects of my consulting practice. And so I will connect with individuals who are looking to do something different or add on an extra income stream. And I'll walk them through my process in an introductory call. And if they engage, we start to get to know each other through a couple of steps, and that's they complete a brief franchise questionnaire. Then we have a consultation or conversation more. And what we're doing is we're building a business model. I'll then take that information and do apply my expertise of matching the right industry and the right franchise to this business model and align it with their skills, interests, abilities, and how they want to operate their day, how they want to conduct their lives, and we'll go from there. Another aspect is, I guess it's matching the desire to grow, a business owner's desire to grow, and we can help them investigate if a franchise model is that best path.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the tools of an ecosystem to help them do that, build it, grow it, and even exit.
Well, if I may, as a recovering serial entrepreneur myself, I've owned 5 companies, done well and bankrupted and everything in between. The one thing that I have never done is to buy into a franchise, but I certainly have looked at it. And for those that don't have may have good business experience, may, as you say, have sales background, etc., and a passion for a particular thing that they want to do. Franchise models can really help you get over that initial learning curve of how to run a business. Because HR, there's so many aspects to running a business that if you're coming from a corporate environment, you may feel a little bit of a fish out of water, and franchises. Just to give it's all about systems, right? It's all about established processes and something that works. And although I'm an inventor and my business partner Vic is an inventor, we can invent all day long, but turning those inventions and those concepts and the et cetera into a proven, repeatable process and structure that you can make money with, and that makes a difference, is it's a very tough row to hoe. And franchises in general, I feel, for somebody who doesn't have a lot of entrepreneurial experience, especially, can be a huge leg up, because it's all about turning a great idea into a proven process and a proven system. And so I really believe in the franchise model. But there's fly-by-night companies and there's really great companies, and there's ones that might be a good fit and ones that might not be a good fit for what your personal interests are and time availability and funding, et cetera. So if I'm just going to give you a plug and say, if you're considering doing something like a franchise, you really want a guide. You really want somebody like you to help, because it's a big world. There's I don't know how many franchises are out there, but there's got to be in the thousands by now.
Thousands, yeah. I mean, there are, give or take, 4,000 franchise brands in the U.S. I mean, even more globally. So really, how does somebody who is looking for that opportunity, for whatever motive they have, find the right one?
Mm-hmm.
I certainly can help, and I appreciate the plug. And you're right, it is buying into a system. So when I am presenting brands to somebody this is their first adventure or foray into business ownership, I'm going to make sure that as we walk through the process, that they're going to feel comfortable, that they're going to be supported, that a lot of the guesswork, a lot of the franchise company has those processes in place, even to the point of marketing and handling and scheduling appointments. A lot of that's done for them, so that they're not racing. Their mind isn't racing about all of the things that has to get done, from HR to client acquisition, client retention, customer satisfaction, that delivery, so they can focus on that aspect, mm-hmm. delivering the best service or the best product to the customer, and be able to move on to the next one, because that customer is happy and they're going to start talking about it. They're going to profess that this is a worthy business for you to look at,
right,
if you're looking for this service to be done. So, and I think there's a statistic out there that a small percentage of franchise owners actually have the experience of the industry that they get into. I think it's around 11%. So, but you got to be confident in the training and support that they provide you, not just through the discovery process, but beyond. I mean, 5 years, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, if you extend your contract, you want to make sure that they're going to be there for you. And that's part of the process that I try to instill and get answered and distill confidence in the support that they're going to get.
Right. So you're not just buying into a model and here's your manual, have a nice day. Good luck with that. It's something that people may not realize just how important that it is that that you're partnering essentially with a model and with a company that is going to need to be there to support you and answer your questions and deal with issues that come up and help you find the right insurance and understand your liabilities and et cetera, et cetera. It's as I said, I did look into it a little bit, and I won't mention brand names, but it's like, whoa, there's a lot to this, and I could see very quickly that, well, maybe this one might look good. Well, then, maybe that one might look good. But to do your due diligence, you've got to do a deep dive. And if you're doing that on your own and you don't know the industries and know, whether it be restaurants or, janitorial services, whatever it is, right? You've got dozens of options in every industry. And how do you start narrowing down, well, which ones really would be a better fit? And I think that's also an area that you could really help with, right?
It's funny you say that. When I do seminars or webinars, one of my opening slides is, if you take away one thing from this 40-minute conversation that we're going to have in this webinar, is work with a consultant. How are you going to really match and find that right one out of roughly 4,000 franchise brands?
Right.
But I'll go on to say, it doesn't have to be me. Find somebody you trust that will have your back and will be neutral and not really push or pull you to one franchise or another, but really provide that matching and excellent coaching experience so you get all your questions answered and however long it takes. Yes, there's there's a reason for the franchise companies having a process, a step-by-step process. You never want to skip something, but it gives you the opportunity to learn about all facets of the business. You have conversations and webinars about marketing, about operations, supply chain, and HR, and so on and so on. And you get the chance to speak with franchise owners. It's a very thorough process to help you validate and give you this true vision of, I like them, I'm going to be supported, I'm going to love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I see success. So,
Right.
And
so getting a consultant like you, they're also getting a process, an established and proven process of how to identify and select what's going to work for you. Right. So, because otherwise you're literally, and I found this for myself, I just, stuck my foot in the door in looking, and it was like, I don't want to go any further down this road until I talk to somebody that knows what the heck this all looks like and how this all works. Because the questions to ask the people that you serve to draw, that they don't even know that they need to be asking, or the information that they need. One of the biggest things about consulting in general and coaching as well is, we don't know what we don't know. And when you don't know what you don't know, and you're looking at, a major life change, like getting involved in a franchise, you've been around the block. You know what they need to know. Right. So, and they don't know what they need, or they may not know what they need to know, or at least not all of it. Right. So, having that guide, I think is invaluable. I wouldn't even consider, honestly, even searching for a franchise for myself if without getting somebody like you, Rick. is where I come from.
A big part of the process is all right, understanding what questions were asked and what questions weren't asked, and then coaching them on finding out those answers. But it's also the working with the client on their trepidation, their fear of, hey, this is real. I'm getting deeper and deeper into the process, and this is real. But there's a reason for that is, and it's really to unearth everything they should know and should ask, so that they truly come to that decision point for themselves.
Exactly.
There's going to be a yes, and no's okay.
Yeah.
Regardless of what step they are in the process. Right. It doesn't work for them. Nobody wants to push them, into this life-changing decision, because that could lead to issues down the road and not the level of success that they intended.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but basically you're not representing the franchises. You're not there to sell a prospect, a franchise contract. You're there to guide them, to help them select for themselves what's going to work best for them. Is that correct?
That's correct. I represent my client. I am connecting them to what we determine to be the appropriate franchises to investigate. Now I always liken it to either being in a laboratory and you're going through your clinical trials, or you spending a weekend test driving half a dozen cars, and you of course no intention to buy, but you're just honing that learning down to figure out which one fits you. And so, and I do have to preface that my services to my clients, there's no charge, because we're compensated the same way a real estate broker is compensated. That they do a transaction, they get paid. I work on your behalf to find the right match, and if it happens, the franchise company will pay me my fees. And I'll go on to say, you'll know right away if I'm pushing you or if I'm selling you. And if you ever sense that, call me out.
Absolutely. And what you just said, Rick, I think is critical. Look, Webster's defines, not everybody knows this. Webster's defines a customer as somebody you sell products or services to. A client is someone under your protection. And so what you just indicated is you take on clients and you serve them. Your job is to protect them, to guide them, to help them to make their own decision about what is right. Just as a broker, in many cases, but you're not asking the person who's doing the buying to pay for it. That's going to come out of the process of ultimately the franchise company is seeking franchisees, right? So they're willing to pay you to help be the guide for the people that you represent, and you're representing the future franchisee, not the franchise company itself. In other words, why wouldn't you want to have somebody looking out for your interests when you're not even having to pay for it?
Right.
So,
right.
To me, it's like a no-brainer, right? So it's just a matter of, are you and I going to be a good fit, right? And so.
It goes back to the work with a consultant. If it's not me, find somebody you trust.
Right.
Just like that real estate broker that you trust on being able to find all of the attributes of the home that you want.
Right.
And show you things that have that, and some are a fit, some have little issues that you don't consider, and finally that right match happens.
And that's at the surface level, and then below that though is the part where I think your value really comes into play, and that's the fact that you're consulting with them to find out what would be a good fit. You're not just asking them, how many bedrooms do you want, right? It's like, what's your lifestyle? How many times are the kids going to be coming back home again? What, et cetera, et cetera. You're going a lot deeper into, is this going to fit the lifestyle and your business lifestyle moving forward? Not just, how much money does it make and how many hours a week do you have to put into it, right? So, and what's the price, to get involved. So, that being said, you've created a treasure trove of short videos around this, right? So let's talk about where people can find you, find out more information about you, and the franchise the franchiseconsultingcompany.com is of course the place to start. But to connect with you, you're on LinkedIn under Richard Morgin. You're on Instagram under Rick Morgin. You're on Facebook under Richard.Morgin. And although you have a YouTube channel, we got to help you work on that a little bit. In the meantime, all of your video blogs, as it were, are posted under Video Socials. And just go to Video Socials on YouTube and type in Morgin, Morgin, and your dozens and dozens of videos will show up there. But speaking of that, Video Socials is the sponsor of this podcast, and you're a member and have been for quite some time now. And what Video Socials is it takes people who are professionals that want to communicate with, want to share the value of what they do, want to share knowledge and experience through this video medium, or through this medium called video, for YouTube, for their websites, for new video postcards, for whatever that you might use video for. And may not know, one, how to get started with that. Two is may not be all that comfortable sitting there talking to this inanimate object called a camera, and especially don't want to try to do it from a standpoint of, well, I know what I want to say, but how is it landing for the viewer? How are they receiving that information? And so we created Video Socials being the operative word there, and the fact that we get together in small groups and we take turns recording our videos and giving each other support, encouragement, feedback, some accountability. And so you're not doing it in a vacuum, and you're not just doing it from your perspective. You're getting the other perspectives of other professionals in the room. But Rick, what is your experience of Video Socials? Why did you join, and what are you getting out of it?
I love Video Socials. Let me just put that on the table.
Okay.
And I think this fall would be my third full year, if I recall. I realized the importance of video and having a video presence. And it wasn't just doable, doing it on my own. It was more random, haphazard. So a friend of mine introduced me to Video Socials. I was a guest, sampled it, joined, and knew it was going to be an experience where it just takes practice. It takes practice getting comfortable being recorded and comfortable doing video. And really the goal was getting comfortable enough where I wouldn't have to try to memorize anything. I remember that was my first couple of times, was trying to memorize my 2 minutes or so. But you're right about the feedback. But it's more this community, Our group really supports each other. And it's more than the production of video. It's this community of support to help each other advance their business through video production. And the platform is Video Socials. The feedback is honest. It can be to the point. It's never really overcritical. It's just corrective to the benefit. And what I like, the accountability part is often from the feedback is a suggestion for the next video. Like if you if you've stated a case study, well, how did it turn out? Maybe in the next video, you have a series of these, or if it's an educational thing, you can create a series and then post them. That's what I love about video socials, and hopefully that's the truth, and that it answers your question.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate very much, Rick, your contribution to it, because it is an experiential program in the fact that we learn by doing, and we do it together, right? So it's we're all learning from each other, and we're all practicing together, and many of those practices, especially after you get your first couple under your belt, many of those practices turn out to be publishable. And the ultimate goal, I often say, and then I'll wrap this up, the ultimate goal I often say is it's not the 11 o'clock news. It's having a conversation with an audience. So leave the script aside and have a conversation with the camera, with the built-in audience that we provide, which are your peers on screen with you that are listening and paying attention and wanting to help you. But have a conversation just as if somebody was sitting across the desk from you. And if you can do that, you've got the Holy Grail, because then people are going to engage. They're going to pay attention. They're going to get to know, like, and trust you, right? So anyway, if you have an interest in using video for your marketing, or you've been doing it, but you're having difficulty with consistency, etc., just go to videosocials.net. We'd love to have you as a guest. Click on the guest tab at the top of the screen, and there's no cost, there's no obligation. We'd love to meet you and have you experience what a video socials meeting is like. And by the way, it is very affordable. All right, Rick. So speaking of your case studies, right, that I know that you've sometimes outlined in your videos, what are some examples of how you've helped people, case studies of what you've seen people go through and how you've been able to help them?
One example is in probably August of 2020, I connected with a gentleman who was about to retire from the military as a commander, submarine commander. He lived in northern Connecticut. And I gave him a thought about franchise ownership, business ownership. He did going into corporate world. Then in October of 2021, he contacted me and said, my wife and I want to develop a business. We're ready. Over the next year, we went through the trials of investigating businesses, but we found the right one that led them to the end, and they ended up closing in November 2022, trained, and opened in the first quarter of this year. So they're getting leads, they're marketing, they're enjoying it. But that's a situation where I think the husband's still working, but as an exit strategy out, because they want to do something together. And then the business really aligns with both their skill sets. I've worked with a corporate executive, a finance executive, who, when we first connected through a networking group, mentioned that she has some friends that were running a business and their own executive career, and she felt she could do both. Went through the same process, very diligent process, found that right match. She signed her first agreement in the early fall of 21. Then by February of 22, she bought her second territory. So those are examples of motives, that people come to me with situations that we discuss, and we find out what's the motive for doing this. What are they trying to get to?
What are their drivers? Yeah.
One is continuing a career, developing a business at the same time. The other was it's time to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very confident I can find the right franchise business model to fit just about every motive.
Terrific.
And so, yeah, I can go on, or we can.
Well, I think that gives a couple of examples, and I'm hoping that the main takeaway that anybody watching this is that, look, the franchise world is a big world, and their interests are in selling the products, selling the services, et cetera, and getting franchisees on board. But many of them are really interested in your success. But it's difficult on your own to explore what might be a good fit for you, and what the timing might look like, and et cetera. And with you, Rick, they've got an opportunity to have a guide who has that experience, who has done this many times before, for many people in different circumstances, in different situations, and with different drivers and motivations. As an example, in all types of industries, because basically all types of industries are represented through the whole franchise world. But that you can, for lack of a better term, kind of take your time and figure out what's going to be a good fit. What's, you don't want to make an investment like that based off of, if I invest X number of dollars, I'm going to get X number of dollars back, and not really know what it is that you're walking into, what's going to be required. And from experience and from the experience of your partners, those, because that's another thing. You're part of a group, and so you're sharing each other's experience and the experiences of working with these different franchise companies. Are they really following through with the training and the support and the engagement? And so you're not just gaining your personal experience, you're gaining the experience of this entire group. I don't know how many partners are in your group, but it's quite a number. I did take a look at the website. So
yeah, it's quite a number.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of a best of both worlds, and a no-brainer to certainly at least have a conversation with you. But if you're not even ready for that, again, all of the links that we talked about before, the website, the YouTube channels, and stuff like that, will all be associated with this podcast, however you're viewing or listening to it. So you don't have to remember all of it. You just look in the descriptions. The links will be there. And as well, Rick, you had a couple of people that you've worked with that you thought might be a good fit for the Inspiring Business podcast. And AJ and a Cynthia. What would you like to say about them? What shout out would you give them?
I've worked with Ajay and his wife. She goes by Vinny. It's Vinita. And at the time, Ajay was he owned a franchise, a home healthcare franchise, and then now again they were looking for something they could do together, and we found them a payroll franchise that can operate a company's payroll and keep them in compliance, whatever state they're in.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy the connection with Ajay because he's a giver. That, what is that motto of givers gain? But he is a giver, a connector, a good friend, and client too. And then Cynthia, she is actually the example I gave of buying that second territory about afterwards, and just an engaging person, high level executive. The company, we own an online magazine, the Franchise Journal. I wrote an article about her for the March issue, which was women in franchising, and kind of her entry level into describing why she went into it was she reached the corner office, but it wasn't exactly what she expected.
Right.
So it goes beyond friends developing both a career and a business, but we just happened to find the right one that allowed her to develop additional territory and start to really scale the business. So those shout outs for Ajay Saini and Cynthia Watson. I'm happy to see if they want to be a guest.
Oh, well, thank you. Right. And we'll certainly reach out to them and see if they'd like to be a guest. I really do appreciate that. And I'm sure that they'll appreciate that. So that's awesome. So just as we close up, Rick, because, we could go on and just give examples all day long. But you've done a lot of that through your videos. Again, go to Video Socials on YouTube and look up Rick and there's dozens and dozens of examples and videos that are there. But is there anything that, if somebody's thinking about, is franchising right for me? Is, I'm in a corporate situation, or I'm getting ready to transition, or maybe I'm retiring from something, or whatever it is. What would one thing that you really want them to know and about whether they should seek the help of a guide such as yourself?
Well, in that initial conversation is let's be open. Let's figure out if franchising is right for you. If it isn't, we'll let you know, and that's okay. And just in being open, help me understand. Help me understand, what are you trying to get to, and I'll help you get there. That's it.
Great.
So it's a creation of a coaching partnership to find that right solution for whatever motive, and tell me where you're going, and I'll help you get there.
I like that. It's nice and simple. It represents a synergistic relationship, not just an engagement, but an actual relationship. And I can tell based on how you talk about people and talk about those that you serve, that you do end up making friends much of the time with those that you work with. Because let's face it, those of us that are out to try to help people, we like people, we like helping people, and it's very satisfying, isn't it, to help somebody kind of find their calling and find something that really works for them. So kudos to you for making that your career. And I thank you so much for being on today, Rick.
I enjoyed it. You're a great host, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
It was a true privilege to be part of your audience and try to connect with more people and see what I can do.
All right.
How I can help. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Take care.
You've been listening to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock. Your positive comments, likes, and most importantly, your sharing of this show with others is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to the Inspiring Business Podcast on whatever platform you prefer. You can catch prior episodes on videosocials.net and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major podcast platforms.